What do we really know about diversity? What can we share with others about inclusion? Are these two topics that you think about every day? Do they inspire you? Do they scare you? Do they empower you? Do they dictate who your friends are? Does it tell you what kind of leader you're going to be? Tonight, I hope to touch your hearts. I hope to be able to give you some tools to look within yourself and recognize diversity and understand inclusion. And I think the best way to do that is to poke a little fun at myself and tell some personal stories that'll probably help you get along with your life and understand a little bit about diversity and inclusion. I was born in New York City and raised there for my summers and spent my time amongst 8 million souls. So it's safe to say diversity makes that city hum, right? I moved to Florida and spent my time being raised in Miami with hundreds and thousands of people stirring the cultural melting pot. And then, in my mid-20s, I decided to move to a little capital city known as Tallahassee, Florida, to start my career in state government and to complete my master's degree in criminology. Sorry. I'm a little nervous. My blended family is a hotbed of diversity that gives Ancestry.com a run for its money. In short, I'll paint you a picture. On my mother's side of the family, I was born from Argentinian parents who are here in the crowd this evening, and that makes me 100% Hispanic and a first-generation American. The rest of my family is Greek by marriage. When I say they're Greek by marriage, I mean that they give the characters in My Big Fat Greek Wedding a run for their money, 100%. They put them to shame. Like the movie, my family also has a lot of similarities to the characters. My family has a Nico, an Angelo, and a Dimitri. My uncle believes that children should be reading the Odyssey and the Iliad, and that Dr. Seuss is a hack. The rest of the family is very strong with familial ties to African American culture, Irish culture, and even Jewish roots. If I was to paint you a picture of what our family tree looks like, it looks like a 3-ring circus without the show ponies and the tent. Everyone in our family is opinionated, loud, and proud. We are #diversitystrong, and all of us believe in inclusion, which was an example my grandmother set for us. In essence, she didn't care who you were. If you were hungry and you needed to be fed, you were welcomed at our table. No questions asked. The only question was, probably, does the milanesa need more salt? But that was it. My grandmother set the example of inclusion, which to this day I carry very, very close to my heart. So, at that point, when people find out that half of my family is Greek, the majority of the time I get asked, because they've seen it in a movie, so it has to be true, right? Does your family use Windex for everything? Let me dispel that rumor for you now. No, they don't. We use Vicks Vapor Rub. Duh. That's just how we roll. So, knowing that, what I have come to learn is that the movie created what I like to call a little unconscious bias monster. Anyone who is not familiar with Greek culture will automatically assume that because my family is Greek, they use Windex for everything. And that's just not the case. But if we look at that situation, we realize that whether we believe we do it or not, we unbiasedly commit these little unconscious bias monster moments where we associate stereotypes to cultures and even religions. The little unbiased monster lives inside of all of us, and that's the bad news. The good news is that you can learn to silence that little unconscious bias monster. Your weapons to do that would be diversity and inclusion. Now, I'm sure you're sitting there asking yourself, but what does that mean? I asked myself those same questions. As I said, I moved to Tallahassee in my mid-20s, and I finished up my master's degree and started working for the state. At that time, the buzzwords of diversity and inclusion were literally thrown around the workplace like confetti. And I needed to understand what that meant. I would often ask individuals who were in leadership roles, who hailed from other generations, what the terms diversity and inclusion meant to them. As an employee, I wanted to do the right thing, and I wanted to figure out how those two concepts were supposed to fit the landscape of the workplace and how I was supposed to use them to mold me. Occasionally, I would get half-hearted responses from the most recent memo that floated across someone's desk. I would be sent to another training, or my least favorite response, you millennials, always asking what and why. There it was, that little unconscious bias monster. Let me tell you something. I would rather run in my stilettos down a beach in 100-degree weather than be pigeonholed as a millennial in the workplace. Not because I'm not proud to be a millennial, but because being one had inevitably come with a preconceived notion about me as a person and an employee that just was not true, no matter how hard I worked to overcome that stigma. That can also be said, unfortunately, about every multi-generational workplace. Those stereotypes of, oh, he's too old or she's too old, they don't know how to use word, that is offensive in the workplace. From that point on, it got me thinking, why do we hear that diversity is a buzzword used in a boardroom and not a celebration of potential? How often are we overlooking potential because of a label like millennial? How often in our day-to-day lives are we quick to stereotype others because they're different? And how quick are we to write them off because of those differences? What could we, as a human race, be missing out on because that little unconscious bias monster that lives inside of all of us saddled us to our comfort zones? How are we truly going to innovate and evolve if we don't seek to understand the differences that people have or what that can bring to the table or bring to the light? It wasn't until I started working at the Florida Department of Corrections that the concepts of diversity and inclusion fit together like a puzzle, and everything made sense, shockingly, at a correctional career move. At that point, what I learned was that diversity had nothing to do with me checking the boxes of female, college-educated, millennial, good-looking in the workplace, okay? It had everything to do with what I'm about to share with you right now. This, what I'm about to share, is the secret of how to slay the little unconscious bias monster. Are you ready? I'm glad you're ready. Treat everyone as an equal. Equal. Mind blown. That's it. That's all you have to do. Treat each other as equals. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a novel concept. America was founded on the idea that from many, we are better as one, okay? Treating each other as equal has historically been what America is about. Diversity is how we built this country. We have gone leaps and bounds in the fight for equality, and the fight will continue, and it will rage on until each and every one of those little unconscious bias monsters has been laid to rest. The terms diversity and inclusion, in fact, are different, just as you and I are different. Diversity is our spice of life. It is the things that make up our characteristics. It's what makes us special. It's what makes us completely unique. Inclusion is the acceptance and the use of those differences, even if you don't agree with them, for the greater good at hand. I know it is so much easier said than done to look around and say we're all equal. I get that. Just as Marley had said, this is a ladder, and we are all in this together, climbing together, okay? It's so much easier said than done. But you're here now, and you're here today, and we can start today. If you just take 1 second to do this exercise with me, I promise you, it'll change your perspective, okay? You don't even have to break a sweat. Take a second and look around the room. Recognize that no one here is the same. Now think to yourself, what do you really see? From where I'm standing, what I see is that every single one of you has something to bring to the table. And that makes each and every one of you worth something. Okay? If this is similar to what you told yourself, then you are on the right track, and pat yourself on the back. If you looked around and that wasn't the first idea you had, that's okay too. Practice makes perfect, and Rome was not built in a day. If I can leave you with anything this evening to close out this event, I would truly hope that you remember and believe that we are the population. Forget being the generation, because this is truly a team effort, a humanitarian effort, regardless of age, gender, race, sexual orientation. Forget all of those things. We are the population that can be the change. Not just say it, be it. We all have it in us to recognize diversity and take it a step further by promoting inclusion through equality. Let what you heard from me and the rest of our speakers today inspire you, how you treat your friends, how you interact in the workplace. Let that be the ideas and the movement forward in your life to treat everyone just as you would want to be treated. Our potential is absolutely limitless when we can accept that individually we're smart, but collectively, as a human race, we have all of the makings to be absolutely brilliant. Thank you.